Yeah. Hey, bruh. You know, it's interesting, né? From the last time, like the last conversation we had, speaking about family, and I think it's a very critical conversation for you and I to have, but also for other people to come on in and listen. Because I think the problems we have right now, whether it's men killing other men at a very, very high rate, or men killing women, or men killing children, or women killing men, women killing their children, or kids killing each other, and many other problems, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. What I think there's a very key ingredient in our pursuit of, you know, solution, in our pursuit of trying to solve this, right? And this key ingredient is something that perhaps majority of us really do not consider as important as it is: the family. And the last time I mentioned something called the nucleus family, which is really the basic unit of building a nation. And I also mentioned how the Indians, the Jews, and the Muslims, and many other communities in the world that are thriving actually have their own little communities within this much bigger system. And we need to do that. We need to get to that level where we have our own functioning system, and then we can interact with any other group within the bounds of our system, right? Look at the Somalis who come to South Africa, man, illegally and legally, whatever. Look at what they do. They have their own system, right? Somalis work amongst each other, and they circulate money amongst each other. Even the women they marry are their own women. You see, the Pakistanis do the same. The Ethiopians do the same. Nigerians do the same. Do you get me? We're the only people who don't have a structure. And it's
man. I mean, I think we are colonized, brother.
We are
because
colonized.
even when we think of food, bro, like we don't think of African food. You won't say no, or something like that.
You mean our food? Let me not say African food. Our food, because Nigerians think of their food. Somalis think of their food. You get me? It's us.
No, I mean our food.
Yes.
As the Bantu people.
Yes.
You understand?
Especially here in South Africa.
Yeah.
Because in Tanzania they eat their food. In Rwanda it's South Africa, man. You see that's where we have to start addressing the issue, right? We're like the leaders in good and bad things. So let me just, you know, maybe touch on that issue. It also starts within the family, at home. But then the problem is when you give up your right to be a parent, your power as a parent, you give it up to the government. Now your kid is dictated by government propaganda and indoctrination. You give up your kid to be taught by some life orientation textbook about what family is. You let your kid be taught about sex at the age of 12 years old, but then they don't even know how to save money. By the time they reach grade 12, they don't even know how to manage their own personal finances. They go to varsity, they learn accounting, they are good at, you know, following bank statements and what happened to this transaction and that, but then they still can't manage their own finances. So by the time they're 30 years old, they can do all these things. They can speak this language which is not theirs. They understand this culture which is not theirs. They eat this food which are not theirs. They wear these clothes which are not theirs. But then they can't take care of themselves. They can't take care of their own families. They can't even form a functioning family. It's our problem, man. And it has to be addressed from that basic level of family.
So I just have a question. When you say family, are you saying in the sense of
mother,
the Bantu family, or as just a single home?
Yeah. So that's where it starts, within the single home. Remember that I want to take it there to that level. A single unit, mother, child, father. Do you get me? That dynamic where there's a father, there's a mother, and then there's children. It starts there. If that is not functioning, the entire street or community is not going to function. Do you get me? I remember when I grew up, you know, you'd have like families, and then they would form a street, and then you'd have many streets, then they would form a town, right? And each and every family needs to have a functioning system, and then you transfer that to a much bigger level. Like as a street, you have a street committee, you have representatives, and then from a street you have a councillor, from a councillor you have a mayor, from a mayor you have a premier, and then minister, and then you see. But then it starts from the family.
Would you say like you have trust in those systems or structures that are in place?
The ones that we currently have.
The councillors, as you mentioned.
So if the families are functional, right? if we are functional in our own individual households, then we'll be able to select people to represent us. Representation is as ancient as time itself. People have always selected people to represent them. Just because here in South Africa or other countries it doesn't work, doesn't mean it's not, it's a good idea to have someone to represent you. Do you get it? Whether it's a pastor, whether it's a priest, there's always been representation because we do different things within a society. So I do think it can work, but I do not have trust on our current, representatives. For example, the ANC.
Why would you say that?
They're useless as hell, man. They're useless thieves and they are rapists. They beat their wives. They cheat on their husbands. They're sleeping with children. You find that the leader has someone who works in the office and then he's sleeping with that person. For people to get jobs, they need to sleep with these guys. So it's useless as hell. I can't trust these puppets. They're not even that smart, man. These guys, they're not very intelligent. You see, man, if you can't control your urges for stealing, your urges for sleeping with someone, you're not a very intelligent person. You're worse than an animal. Even dogs have seasons, man. Dogs have seasons. They have a season of actually mating, you see. So even plants, now we're gonna enter spring. It's a season. There's cycles. So if you can't even control yourself as a man, as a woman, as a girl, as a boy, you're in office, you're stealing instead of helping people. It's not even your money, it's their money. Everyone pays tax. If you buy food, you're paying tax because there's a VAT charged on virtually every product. Even those ones that are exempt, there's someone has to pay something. So what I'm saying is, these structures are dysfunctional, right? But then it doesn't start there. That's just a symptom. The real problem starts within the family. People are raised by single mothers, man. And so, can I finish? People are raised by single mothers, ne? Single mothers are trying their best, but then they can't do everything. This thing of role reversal, that no, I don't need a man. Maybe you don't, but then the children, maybe the children do. You see? Now you are getting to a point where the mother is the father, the child is a boy, and after 2 months is a girl, after 3 months he identifies as a balloon. You can identify as a balloon, man. Do you know that? You can literally identify as a balloon. You are free, and you can have a pronoun called king and lord. I can't question that. So that shows you how dysfunctional this whole nonsense is. But for us, that system doesn't work. It's never worked for us. It's always worked against us. So that's why in the city, we have to go back to what really defines us: mother, father, and child. Make that work together. Children must be taught that they are children. They are not the kings at home. I see on social media, if a child cries for something, hey, the parents must go crazy and buy that child that nonsense. Yeah, Baba, when we're young, you even get murdered by your mother. Bah! You see?
And then you cry.
You cry and then you get beaten up for crying.
For crying.
You get me? Or if you go, you play with other kids and then you get hurt, something happens. You get beaten up for getting hurt.
Yeah.
And it teaches you next time you have to deal with your stuff. But today, man, parents would end up fighting amongst each other for their children, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying beating children and everything is a good thing. There's always a better way of doing things. But I'm saying is,
even the Bible says, man, when you spare the rod, then you spoil the child.
Yes, so it speaks to discipline. There has to be discipline and consequence. And today you don't see that. So that's what I'm saying. Everything at home is messed up. The child is the king. The father is the dog. The father, if you lose a job as a man, then you are nothing. If you lose a job as a man, even children will come tell you, Maluma Sebenzi, you are useless. You're always eating here at home.
Just to take you back a little bit, so you just made a statement that this thing just begins from within the home, right?
Yeah.
So what about the external influences then?
That's why I'm saying, let's first attend to the problems within the house, right? So there's this proverb that if there's no enemy within, the enemy outside can do you no harm, right? Yes. So if you have a strong structure, you have a strong family unit, and that family unit forms a unit with other families within us as a people. That unit, your family, my family, the next family, that family, we work together, right? We have annual gatherings. We make deals amongst each other. We do business together, just like other communities are doing, Muslims, Indians, and all these other groups. If we have that, that's our own system. But now we exist within another system where there's other groups of people, and that's fine. So that's the external factors that you're mentioning. We don't approach those external factors as individuals now. We speak with a particular voice. Like China. If you are dealing with the Chinese government, you are dealing with 1.4 billion people. You're not dealing with Xi Jinping. or one minister. You're dealing with 1.4 billion people. That's why the guy in China, one president, can call 30 presidents from Africa to go to China. 30 men, grown-up men. They would probably beat Xi Jinping if they had to fight. They could beat him. But then he has power because he has 1.4 billion citizens. Hundreds of millions of people who contribute tax, at least a billion people who contribute tax towards him, right? So he speaks with a unified voice. They might not all agree with him, but then he is a representative. That's what I'm talking about. When there's a strong structure within the family, a strong structure within the community, it results in a strong structure within what? The society. Now the Chinese have a working system amongst themselves. It's not perfect, but it works for them. And then when they come and approach the external factors, they approach them as a unit, a strong muscle, like your fingers. You have 5 fingers, but when you form them, when you form a fist, you use all of them, and it's painful. But with us, it's not the same. With us, it's a very individualistic approach. That's why you have presidents who are stealing from the people. Presidents who are stealing things that they shouldn't even be stealing. You have presidents who have absolutely no character or integrity. You have pastors who are rapists. Who's that guy, the Nigerian guy, Omotoso, and there's this other Malawian, that fool.
Bushir.
Yeah, that fool, Bushir, that thief and a liar. And you have South African people who praise those guys. They worship them. They go crazy. Man of God, Major one. Hey, Papa.
They even fight for them.
They fight for them and they'll die for those guys. Because you know why? Because they looked outside of themselves for solutions. Can't you know solutions are here? So within that family, the father must know his story. The father must know his story. You cannot want to lead a family if you can't even lead yourself as a man. You can't control your urges.
Yeah.
That's why I said it in the first place. You must control your own urges, man, as a man. As a man, you have to overcome yourself every single day so that you can carve a path everyone else can follow, right? Same goes for a woman. You don't get a pass because you're pretty. Your prettiness is yours and only yours. But at the age of 75, you won't be that pretty anyway. You see? Even you as a man, you can be masculine. It means absolutely nothing if you cannot use this thing. Your faculties up here. So you must overcome yourself and understand that power comes from within. Then when the two forces meet, masculine and feminine, you bring forth children, offspring. You program those children from the time they're in the womb, my brother. You program them to the age of 12. By the age of 12, they must be complete. They must be ready to face the outside world, because then they start making decisions for themselves, you see. But those first 12 years, man, that's why you need a strong family. You program the children to understand the mission. You see, these boys, Afrikaner boys who are taken to camps by such groups as Saint Landers and Commando Corps, you see. They're taken to camps, 13 years old, they're training, man. They already know who the enemy is. They're told, 13-year-old. And the next thing, you go to varsity with these boys. They're 19, they're 21. You think you can convince them with your stupid activism? White privilege. It means nothing to them because they understand you're the enemy and they have to stay in power. And it's fine. It's fine for them to stay in power. Why would they want someone else to be in power over them?
Totally agreed, man. Totally agree. I totally agree with you, brother.
Why would any other group?
But just one more question. So I see that you keep mentioning and making examples about other nations and the things that they are doing and stuff. Do you think it's a wise idea that we follow other nations?
We're already following them.
I'm saying, do you think it's a wise idea to follow?
It can't be wise, because we're already following them and we're dying, man. We've been following them for hundreds of years now. What I'm saying is, let's revert back to what we actually are. Remember, we are organic human beings. We're the original human beings of the earth, right? And until we get back to that identity of ours, we'll always be lost. We're following them, and our women are wearing hair from Asia, Peruvian hair, Brazilian hair. Our women are injecting silicone into their bodies so that they can have big buttocks and big breasts. Men are elongating limbs and all this nonsense, man. All these hoaxes and illusions from Hollywood. We're following them. The food we eat, you mentioned that we eat, strange
Asian foods.
Asian Thai noodles. They're very nice. Thai noodles. And it also speaks to how, they've been able to commercialize, their food and cuisine. So when you go and buy Asian food, you can enjoy it because they've been able to commercialize. And what about us? Why don't we improve on our side? The world is ready. That's why when we produce music, Amapiano, you go to Spain, you go to Portugal, they're listening to that music. because we've been able to master our own thing. We don't need to follow them to answer your question. We have to build our own thing and then export it to the world. There's something that talks about being the light of the earth and the salt of the earth. And someone mentioned something, how we as black people, see the South African, we are like the chargers of the world. Everyone else charges from us. We're like a charging socket. They charge from us and then they get recharged and then they trample upon us. That's nyasha ndot. Yabo? Because we don't see who we are. So when we understand who we are and appreciate, our true value and identity, then the world will change the entire trajectory of the world. Because the world is waiting for us, man. Without us, the world is tasteless and the world is gloomy. So it's not good to follow other nations, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to mention another thing, with regards to going back.
Yeah.
So many people, when you say we have to go back, they will think of the good old days when people used to wear animal skins. They used to live off the land, and they might not realize that we as African also had more civilized civilizations.
No, South Africa alone. Don't even mention Egypt. South Africa alone has some of the most, if not the most ancient artifacts in history, in all of human history. If you look for skulls, man, there's a place in Northwest, they call it the Cradle of Mankind, in Maropeng, Northwest. That's where you will find skulls, archaeological evidence of civilization in South Africa. You go to Cape Town, you find humans have been there way before. You go to the Eastern Cape, they found coins there. They found coins in the Eastern Cape, somewhere around Bondoland. They found coins for trading. You go to Mpumalanga, you have the Bukoni ruins there. With secular stone structures. You go to Gauteng, they have the Kweneng ruins. You go to Limpopo, you have Mapungubwe, you have, we've been mining gold. Even our names, man, our ethnic names, Amalala, Abambo, those names, they mean blacksmiths, the people of the precious stones, people of gold, because we had a functioning system. We had artisans, we had blacksmiths, we had people who used to work iron. I know for a fact I am a descendant of guys who worked with metals and iron and gold, and I descend from those people, and that's how we gathered wealth. Other people were good with the bow and the archers of the bow. Others were good with general agriculture. So what I'm saying is, when I say let's go back to what we had, let's go back to what we had. I'll give you a very simple example. The idea of a kraal, ubuhlanti isibaya. You have cows in there, and goats and sheep. It's like today you would have a virtual wallet. It's like your kraal, little kraal, and then within that wallet you have your little Ripple coin, like your cows. You have your little Bitcoin, like your sheep. You have your little Ethereum. So those are the principles that we can take from our culture, right? Even the whole thing of wearing skins, man. Do you know that a lot of these clothes that we're wearing are skin? They're skin. They're taken from animals, from insects, from plants. It's nothing hectic. It's developed now to appear in a certain way. So when we say let's go back to our culture, we're not saying people must go around naked. You can go around naked if you want, if that's for you. I mean, I'm not gonna do that. Yeah, well, you can walk barefoot. It's scientifically proven. It's a very good thing for you to walk barefoot. But the point is the principles that we had. Principles, my brother. Umntwana makezalwa back in the day, they would take the child, they would bend something, and then they would put the child on top of that, so that the child can smell and open the lungs. You see. Anyway, just to close on this, man. The nucleus family is the key. I want to conclude this subject. Is the key to solving our problems. I'm not talking about other people's problems, ours, because our families are broken. Our men are broken. Our women are broken. The kids are broken as hell. We spend so that we could be validated, could feel validated. We put things on social media, we twerk, we make jokes of insensitive stuff so that we can have likes and followers. People even post pictures, man, and if they get like 5 likes, they delete the picture. You can clearly see that, no, this is like a drug. They're hungry for validation. They're hungry for recognition from others. But then if you can fix within yourself and within your immediate surroundings, that is your family, then by the time you leave your house, you'll feel like you've conquered the world. People who come from healthy families, man, healthy, strong support structures, those people, they've conquered the world. Within them, You don't need to validate them. You can say all sorts of negative stuff about such people. You can't touch them. That's why you can even offend people who've conquered you. You can offend white people by calling them names. A lot of them will just laugh at you. But then if they call you names, hey, you'll get angry, you want to kill them. You know why? Because one conquered the other, and it's not the other way around. That's why you get offended, because you accept that they have some power over you. So what I'm saying is, when you fix the family, starting from the individual, you fix a lot of our problems.